titles are I'm one of the co-founders and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Verificient. Titles are nice, but I'm very proud to showcase this technology. There's a lot of different stops you can make outside, but I still think that this is probably the coolest thing. If you're not familiar with it, you'll see all week long. So we're all about ensuring integrity. And that's one of the things you were mentioning, that you've got all these great universities, colleges are putting their programs online, and now it's time to deliver that assessment. That's been solved, but how do we know who's taking that assessment? So we are a SaaS firm. We specialize in identity verification. That's through biometrics and machine learning, computer visioning, and I'm going to show you a couple examples of what we do here. And our flagship software is ProctorTrack. It's a very bold statement, but we believe that we're the world's most advanced automated remote proctoring solution. There's a couple other that are out there. We have some friends from ProctorU. That's our competitor. If you're familiar with ProctorU? Yeah. Okay, great. Oh, yes. So I'm not. I'm killing it. No, and so we are integrated with all the major learning management systems. We're an alliance partner with Canvas. We love Canvas. But we're also with Sakai and Moodle and D2L and eCollege. You name it, we're enabled and integrated testing here. Okay. We've been working with Rutgers since 2015, and I'll show you a couple of KPIs on that point. But we've worked with Georgia Tech and Colorado State, 2U, Union County, St. George. These are stats that you're probably familiar, that there's just been a big, huge trend of moving to online education. So just increasingly over the last 12 years. But I guess the main sort of philosophy to sort of grapple with is that when you have people who are part of an online classroom compared to those that are in the classroom, how do we treat them? How do we treat them? Can we treat them with the same rigor? Can we value that same educational experience? Right? Especially if they're taking online courses, how do we know if they took the course? Like oftentimes people will register for a course and then they'll step away from it and never participate, right? How do we know who deserves the credit? Or they'll participate in the course, they'll have some friend, or they'll outsource their role to someone else. And then at the end, how do we know when it comes time for assessments, how do we know if they've cheated during the test? Especially when studies have shown that about 86% have admitted to cheating and gone away with it throughout the years. So this is a problem, and you've probably seen how students cheat. You've been in the classroom? Yeah. Have you ever caught students cheating? I'm always interested
Well, my classroom experiences are at the 7 through 12 level, and it was technology, but I had students who were it was a website class, and one student was actually copying the code of another student, and when it turned the code in, I had to exactly.
What are the chances?
Code, yeah.
Dude, that's the grades that they start experimenting. How much can I push?
Yeah.
With cheating. So we've seen this, that they'll write little tiny notes everywhere, crib notes, or this is something in India that it's also a cultural thing where in India the parents would climb up the walls just passing out notes and telling what the answers are during the exam. We've seen this in the headlines as well, that this is a global problem when it comes to cheating. So whether it's the SATs, and then there's places where they're getting creative, where they wear silly hats, trying to discourage from cheating, but I guess you get points for trying to, right? Or wearing newspapers, this happens. But this is the problem. They're trying to, figure out how do we, even in the classroom, just bring integrity back. Same thing, those mechanisms are trying to be replicated online as well. Oh my gosh, in China, they'll have drones flying around a testing center because they can detect signals that are being done by Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, trying to get the answers in there. So, And this is some of the apparatus that you could purchase on eBay that people will sell, saying, hey, if you need to purchase equipment to get a test, we'll have a little receiver, and the signal going to your ear. That's it. And it's important because now that employers, they're looking to hire talent with verified credentials. So it's going to be important that we can deliver that integrity when it comes to online testing. Right. So our thesis about the credentials are so important because it equals to currency, and that could result into upward mobility. Especially when it comes to compliance, if you're familiar with this, with the Department of Education, this is back in 2013. They have a very robust, comprehensive, mandatory when it comes to online students. And the three takeaways of that universities need to verify students' identity by multi-form factor, not just single sign-on, as well as being able to verify a student's academic attendance. Right? So if they're going to be attending an online course, can you create an archive and making sure that they are been participating in that course? And then maintaining that evidence of academic attendance throughout the entire course. And what's great is ProctorTrack does all of that. Okay. So just kind of wrapping up, the four big challenges, like how do we verify the identity of online test takers? How do we stop online cheating? And how do we protect the institution IP? That's going to be very important because oftentimes instructors spend so much time creating these test assessments, and in a flash, they're gone. In the sense that somebody's printing them out, sharing them, sharing screens, and all of a sudden that all that time and energy that was spent creating those test assessments, you're going to have to redo them. Same thing on the student side, how to protect student privacy as well. And then again, the last one is how to verify the attendance while they're taking their coursework online. I love those guys at ProctorU, but they are costly and not scalable. They're not automated, which very quickly there's a lot of competitors in the marketplace which will use online proctoring in the sense of that you'll have a human on a large screen looking at the most 6 to 8 test takers. And I don't know if you've ever played with picture-in-picture while you're watching TV, there's only so many things that you can look at the same time. So it's also very intrusive for a student to have somebody looking at you through the web camera. They're just not accustomed to it while you're taking the assessment. What's great about us is that we are proctor-less, so we don't use any human proctoring. Everything's being done by algorithms that can detect any sort of misconduct using facial recognition and machine learning. All right. So I think I mentioned before, we do a multi-form factor, which includes a face scan, an ID scan, a knuckle scan. We're doing continuous throughout the entire assessment. We'll do a full system check. We'll do a software check. We have a black list as well as a white list of software. So if you we're very flexible in the sense that if you've got a course that has open book, you can allow for that open book. If you have a course that allows for calculators, you can allow that as well. Or if you're allowing them to go to have a Word document that they can refer notes to, or if it's completely locked down that it's just the assessment, we can customize that for each assessment. We're on demand, so oftentimes if you have to schedule with a live proctor, we don't need to do that with ProctorTrack. We're FERPA compliant. We don't share any of the student videos. We've got a great support team, 365, you can chat, text, email, and then I'll show you the analytics that just shows that any type of misconduct, infractions, they're pre-flagged. So we are not the body that sort of determines if a student has cheated or not. Like that, cheating is just such a trigger word where we have nothing to do with that. All we do is that if there's been any sort of, I call them like infractions or misconducts, we just flag them for someone as the instructor or a TA to review to determine if there needs to be something happen. And then we also do that attendance. All right. We say that there's no extra work for the instructors because you're only reviewing students by exception only. So let's say, for example, that you have an online course that has 400, 500 students. They take the online assessment, maybe a midterm. You don't want to take a look at everyone's proctoring report. You're just going to look at the ones that need to be reviewed. So out of the 400, 500, you're only going to be looking at, we notice that there's probably a review between 5 to 10%. So you're just looking at 40 of the 400, which is it. And then from that, they can be filtered down to see which are like minor ones and which ones just by sound, or which ones are a little bit more weighty. So we do all the heavy lifting. We are flagging if there's any QA reviews that are needed. And so we are taking an automated process and also doing a QA report into quality assurance just to make sure that by the time it comes to you or the instructor, or the TA, they're just doing a quick review to see if that there's been a legitimate issue when it comes to the online assessment. All right. Mentioned this before, we're integrated with all the major LMSs, Sakai, Moodle, Canvas. There's still time, I'm sure Rutgers will adopt another LMS. Yep. We are in alliance partnership with Canvas for the last 4 or 5 years. They're great. Okay. And we've been integrated with a lot of institutions, both big and small. So from the west coast of USC and Northeastern, Georgia Tech, Schweiz, Colorado State, of course at Rutgers as well. Okay. Just some high-level numbers here. This is since 2015. We have conducted over 23,800 test sessions. So we've been tried and true, just continuing on developing the test sessions and as well as our technology, just tightening it up when it comes to the machine learning and the verification. About 21,000 unique onboards, about over 942 courses. And then when it comes to the number of test sessions to be reviewed, it's about 5% at Rutgers, 100, and then those get escalated for integrity review about 1,100 plus or minus. And that's over the course of 3 years. And if you break that down, that ends up being at least 30 a month, once a day.
See, I missed the part where it said Rutgers. I was like, you guys are in a lot of courses, but it's just Rutgers, so yeah. I thought you meant nation.
No, just Rutgers, yeah. So it seems like a lot to review, but of course, that's like 300 a year. Richard Metzger, part of Mason Gross, he's a big advocate for us, so you can contact him to understand his experience with it as well.
It's really easy to use. A lot of everything's like clearly marked. So, and then there's a lot of options for proctoring, like for the book, the calculator. I have one instructor who, all of the students get to use the computers in the classroom, but he doesn't want them surfing the web. So, we took out a lot of the identity verification process. So, you turn on what you want, turn off what you don't need.
I think we'll go straight to a demo. Do you have any questions so far? Big, huge build up. And again, this is with Canvas, but again, we're integrated with all the LMSs. We're just going to log in as the instructor, if you're familiar with the Canvas platform. And in this part right here, we're just going to create a quiz, as usual. So as an instructor, we're going to start zipping through accounting basics and just go through all of the requirements, and we're going to save and publish. And what you'll notice is that Proctor Track is right there on the left-hand navigation. We'll click on that, and all you need to do is that one toggle and set it for, and let's pause that. You can set it for proctoring enabled. So you can create your quizzes as usual, and you can just select which ones you want to have proctored by Proctor Track. All right. That last button was the configuration button. And here, you can start going through that if you want to have copy and pasting is allowed, if you want to require a photo ID, the knuckle scan, and you can, if you want to do a room scan, so you can either just switch on and off which ones you would want to have for the assessments. And that's it. Okay, on this second part here is that a student that's going to be logging in and taking the assessment for the first time. So before every student logs in, they'll go through an onboarding process, understand how the proctor track works with the assessment. So by the time that a student does take an assessment that there's a stake to it, they can be accustomed to it. And this is how we reduce any sort of help tickets during the assessment. Okay. So they're going to be logged in. They'll start to take a, sorry, I'm going to go back here. Here. You can pick and choose room scans, digital notes. So how students take a test, they'll log into Canvas or LMS as usual. They'll take a practice, they'll do get an onboarding quiz, and they'll go through the student guidelines. Some of these include, you can just take a look here. One more time. Mention simple stuff, right? Use a private testing area. Just turn off all the noise devices. Make sure your face is clear so no hats or sunglasses. Sit in front of the web camera. What we're trying to do is replicate a real live testing area, but we're doing it at their home. And some of the guidelines include here that you're going to have a valid photo ID. You can't take any bathroom breaks. No personal items. And no click and understand and go to the next steps. And these are all configured in that back end. They'll download the proctor track, and then it gets popped up very quickly here. So the next thing they do is a 7-point system check where the system looks for a keyboard, one mouse, one keyboard, one hard drive, monitor, the system, the microphone, the web camera, making sure that it's configured to be able to take that assessment. So that's the first step, is a system check. The second step will be an identification. So they'll do a facial scan where they'll do and an ID scan. Sorry, this is moving very quickly. They'll do a facial scan, and then as well as an ID scan. And the last is the knuckle scan. They'll just agree to the terms and conditions, and then they'll jump in and take a test. So what you'll notice here is that you can get an access code. All this can be configured if you want to have just a higher level of security, so that every student has their own unique access code. Sometimes it's just a little bit more flexible, so they can go through this step. So they'll type in the access code. You'll notice that they can see themselves in the monitor. So if they jump out of it, it sort of corrects them to get back onto it. Okay. They'll get the access code. They can drag that around, very similar to like a web conference with themselves, pretty much. And then they'll type that in, get the access code. It's in the clipboard. They'll paste it into the access code that's been created, and then they'll type it in. I'm sorry, they'll paste it in. They'll submit. And now they're going to be taking the assessment, just as usual. What you'll notice that's different is that there's a blue frame that is monitoring the student. So I think that they hit that video button here. They can disable the video monitor in the sense that if they felt a little self-conscious of themselves, watching themselves take the assessment, they hide it back. But that blue frame, that means that they're being monitored during the entire assessment. So the student's going to go through the questions here. And they'll submit the quiz. And they'll end it, and they'll also understand that they've submitted the quiz, and all the data is being uploaded to our secure servers. So throughout the entire assessment, the data is being encrypted and posted to our servers. So if there's been a lack of, or there's been a disconnection to the server or to the Wi-Fi, everything's being recorded locally on the desktop laptop, and then it's still being encrypted, and by the time you log in again, everything will be uploaded. And at the end, you can just uninstall or just close the window. All right. It's part 2. Last one is the instructor. So let's say the next day, the instructor comes back, clicks on proctor track, and then reviews the results. And we're doing, again, proctoring by exception. So you'll see up on top that there's been 116, can't really see it here, 116 sessions taken, 16 are being processed, the last one is 8 have passed, but there are 14 that require attention. Right? That means that you just go to the column, last column there, and be able to sort those students that need to be reviewed. Okay. We'll click on, I believe, that last quiz. 5 sessions were taken, 3 have passed, but 2 now requires attention. This is just for the entire proctoring report there. I know, Tim, you're just looking at that. Let me just give you another look. So overall, 116 sessions have been taken throughout all of these courses, but this one specifically, this example, 5 were taken, 3 have passed, but 2 had to be reviewed. Okay. So here, we can see, we can sort by first name, last name, integrity, the date, the number of violations. So Sabrina here, she's got a medium level of integrity. She's had 4 violations, but Marcella has a low integrity, she's flagged for 32. We're just going to review one of them, I think. Okay. There's a voiceover to this video, which is a lot more engaging than I am. So. All right, here we go. So this is the dashboard. We're going to a deeper dive. So here we can sort through the timeline and take a look at it. So they're being flagged for facial suspicion looking away. We're also seeing, let's see here, and this is right on that top level, so you can see the other ones here. That's from Marcella. But you can click on Marcella, go to a deeper dive, and take a look at the top information. So you know that when she took that assessment, you can see this is her video playback, which includes online violations, her identity verification scan at the beginning of the semester, and her onboarding as well. This is sort of the visual timeline, and we can detect that there have been certain patterns that are happening. So again, we can watch the video, or we can go jump straight to the timeline to detect those infractions. So for example, she's taking the assessment, everything's fine. The first one is that facial suspicion flag that she's been looking away. And so what's great about the visual timeline is that oftentimes someone who's cheating, there's going to be patterns and correlations that start to appear. So here we see she's been using a prohibited device that's been flagged right there at 1 minute 20 seconds. At 4 minutes, she's been looking away. That's a bit of suspicion. It's right there. Continuing to move on here. We can see that there's been background audio, multiple people that's going to be showing up, eating and drinking. And again, this audio here as well, we are detecting that she was talking to somebody there.
Cool. Can you export that video out if you needed to give it to a body that was going to look at that and decide whether to punch this game or not?
You can't share videos. I mean, it comes back down to the institution. So because we're FERPA compliant, they don't allow for that.
I have an export. Like as the admin, I request the export and then I give it to people.
You do?
Priscilla, because you're a super user. We all know that. Now what we do is we allow you to export that on a case-by-case basis. So what I was saying is, as an instructor, you log back and see if things secure. But if you had a student that had an incident, you just press one button, and if you have the admin rights, will come to you with a secure token that's short-lived. So the data is encrypted at rest and you decrypt. So it's not a case-by-case basis. But you have that option. We just don't want you to do it for every student.
Right. Because I know, because in our proctoring testing center, we videotape everybody, and if ever there's an incident, there's a lot of time we have to retrieve the video and take it and give it to student contact. Because they need this evidence and proof. Right. And I assume you can do that here.
Yeah. Even bonus, not only will we give you the video, we'll also give you the desktop screenshots for that session as well.
Oh, that's good.
So oftentimes it's like a link that's being sent to someone, they can log back in with their own credentials to take a look at it on the platform.
We're just very secure about how we do things.
Right.
Besides the fact we're still a super user.
Yeah.
But each will have that access if you're authorized.
Right.
From institution.
So in this case, at 5 minutes, there's been multiple people she's been there's been facial suspicion of the way that's been flagged there, which is clearly against the rules of the assessment. Okay. She's drinking. She stepped away from the session. You can write notes here, detected conversation. So a TA can come in here and start creating notes in there. And then you can also take a look at her screenshot. So for example here, this one, at 5 minutes, 18 seconds, she looked up Wikipedia about the length of rivers. She's Googled stuff. And then you can take a look at the identity verification scans. This is where that you can ensure the person who's taking the assessment is the same person who took the onboarding as well, just comparing. So that's how you know that that same person is taking the test. And last but not least is the onboarding as well. There's the ID. And then you can click here if they failed the integrity, and it goes straight to the grade book.